A tentative agreement has been reached between the Writers Guild of America and studios in Hollywood, potentially putting an end to a nearly 5-month-long strike. It'll likely still be a few days until the strike officially ends, but the West and East branches of the Writers Guild have to ratify the agreement, which could take as long as a week. Picketing, we can tell you, is suspended, at least for now. Let's bring in Colby Hall, NewsNation media analyst and founding editor of Mediaite. Okay, Colby, big news this morning. Let's talk about what the Writers Guild was asking for. And also, based off previous work stoppages, how many concessions do you think they may have made?
Well, it's great news either way for anyone that wants to watch scripted television, right?
Yeah.
So that's the headline. The details of which we're not sure yet. So news broke late last night that the Writers Guild had sent a note out to their union members that they had reached an agreement. Now they are waiting to codify the specifics, which they will then send out in the next 2 or 3 days. But they were very encouraged. They said they're very thrilled with what they've arrived at. So one can only assume that the writers will get more money for streamed or archived television. And also there's some stopgaps with AI, the details of which we're still waiting to see. But this is great news for the writers and for anyone that wants to watch good television.
Yeah, and you brought up AI. I was going to ask you that in the very next question, because for the actors and actresses specifically, AI and the studio's use of AI was such a big deal, particularly for extras who were saying, hey, this takes me out of work for days, weeks, months, who knows if longer at a time. Was that also what the writers were worried about as well?
Right. Anyone who has a parent of a kid in high school knows that schools are now telling their students that you cannot just have ChatGPT or AI write a paper. Kids get in trouble for that. It's no different from sort of plagiarism or just taking stuff off the internet. The writers have the very same concern that AI could effectively or theoretically write a script or a storyline that could effectively put writers out. How they put a stopgap into this, it's not clear. It'll be a fascinating thing when that comes out. But the writers are really afraid that the computers are taking over. And, TV shows made by bots is not something that I think that I would watch. But if computers can do a really good job, like maybe we wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So
that's
it's
scary.
A fascinating. It's a fascinating new world that we're in, and yeah, it's a little freaky.
Well, and speaking of, I got to work this morning at 0:30, and for the first time ever, I was prompted by I think it was Google who asked me if I wanted to use AI in helping with my research, which I declined. But I had never seen that before, so today was a first. Also, where does SAG-AFTRA stand on the deal? Because that's a separate strike in and of itself. Is that expected to come to a conclusion now that the writer's strike is potentially over?
We can only hope, because the writers are only one key part of this. You need the actors, right? And the actors went on strike following the writers. So one would feel that this would be, if the studios could sort of get in line and figure out solutions with the writers, I suspect that will be the crack in the dam that will help the actors figure it out also. Like, again, the actors have been very, very supportive. We need the actors to sort of get up in front of camera. So again, details are thin at this point. But this suggests only really good news for actors probably getting a similar deal that what the writers are getting.
Yeah, and I just have a few seconds left, but I know, Colby, you and I have been talking about Drew Barrymore's show specifically. I know daytime talk shows, late night comedy shows will be the first to come back to air. Any idea on timeline of those returning?
Well, so I think the vote will happen in the next 2 or 3 days, which suggests that once they ratify this, once they vote on it, pretty much they're able to go right back to work. So okay. I think big Drew Barrymore fans can watch a writer-written show next Monday. That's what I'm guessing.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.